Welcome back, thanks for joining us. Today it's all about the veggie garden. And I was talking to a good friend and she was asking some questions about the veggie garden and bits and pieces about moving from the winter garden to the spring garden. So thanks, Sandy. Hi, thanks for watching. I thought that's a good idea for a video. So we'll talk about that and I'll show you the veggie garden, show you the seedlings that we've got growing. And by no means am I an expert veggie gardener. We came here and we built a garden and we're learning as we go, and we learned a lot in each season. So now we're in our second spring. In spring last year we just had the veggie garden in. We planted some potatoes and then we got our tomatoes going and all the bits and pieces. So we've learnt a lot along the way, and we have finished our first winter. Some things grew really well, some things not so well. But some things I didn't start early enough, I didn't get in the garden quick enough, so by no means am I an expert. But still loving it, and there is nothing better than last night. We had a stir fry for dinner and we came out and we harvested things from the garden. We had parsnips, we had Brussels sprouts, we had carrots, we had leeks, we had broccoli, we had spinach, we had silver beet. We had to buy a capsicum because they're not growing here at the moment. We had snap peas, we had shelled peas, we had snow peas. So we had a yummy coriander and parsley, and so that was, and Stony Creek chicken. So it was a fantastic meal, and there's just nothing like it. So if you've got some space, start simple. Just start with something small, something easy to grow, like lettuce. And I'll show you an update on the little raised tote beds that we've been making. I'll pop that up at the end of the video. So I'll show you what's happening in the garden and what I'm doing I'll show you my seedlings that I've got going and what I'm doing at the moment to get ready to put those in. So I'll start by showing you what's in the garden at the moment, and we are 3 weeks into spring. And so this row, which is last year, we planted in potatoes, and this row is not ready. This first row is not ready for potatoes yet, but I have planted this bit full of potatoes. Oops, that's a tractor. I'll pause it for a minute. So in this raised garden bed, I've just got a bit of silver beet there, but this is some snow peas that I planted purely just as a cover crop to cover the ground after summer had finished, heading into autumn and winter. So it really wasn't to harvest the peas. If we got some peas, that'd be good, but it was just to add some nitrogen to the soil as well, because peas are good nitrogen fixers. But we're getting some peas, which is exciting. So we're harvesting those. The broccolis, these broccolis are nearly done. They're going all to seed, but these are still good to eat. More peas that we've done there. These broccolis, which I didn't realise were purple sprouting broccoli. And if you get a chance, and if you haven't ever planted purple sprouting broccoli, do it. Sometimes they take a long time to grow, like the big Mount Vesuvius in our raised garden beds, but these ones, they're great because you just pick a bit off like that into your stir fry or your whatever you're making, and they're already the size they need to be. You don't need to chop, and they just keep growing and growing and growing until they're done. When you cook purple sprouting broccoli, it goes green, but it's delish. So we've got a couple of those. They'll keep growing, hence why I can't put spuds in yet. These ones have gone to head, so what I'll do is I'll pull those out. We've got some nice fennel growing, so that will be lovely in the salads. And up here is a cauliflower that's been eaten, and then a self-sown potato, and in here is where my, there's the tractor again, my little New Zealand yams are. We didn't harvest any of those in the hope that they'll keep growing. Second bed, we've got carrots. We've got a space there that I've just mulched. So anywhere that I have a spare space, I make sure there's mulch down. Some beetroot growing, lettuces, the occasional carrot, more beetroot. This is golden beetroot. Some of it's going to seed, so I need to pull some of that out. And I've planted a little bit of potatoes there. Then we've got our garlic, and anywhere that haven't got anything in yet, I am just mulching. So some more broccoli, that's nearly done. Our Brussels, I've pulled out a lot of our Brussels, so I've still got these ones to go. I'll show you what I do there. And we've got broad beans and more peas. This row here, which is where I will plant our capsicums or peppers and zucchinis. Just waiting for most of those things to finish, but have just mulched that heavily. Leeks that we're still harvesting. We've got some more red onions there that are growing. And the tomato bed, this trellis will always be tomatoes. This year I'm going to put cucumbers in between the tomatoes. I heard that's a good thing. But over winter we planted some peas, did some shelling peas. They didn't work out that well. There's a couple, but I've got some more snap peas in there. These ones look like they're done. But lots of snow peas and snap peas down here. So we'll still be harvesting those right up till when we plant tomatoes. Heaps of broad beans. And my newest venture in the garden, and it's growing now, is a yukon. If you don't know much about yukon, look it up. It's from South American, they say it's a ground apple. So it grows, and hopefully it's very sweet. It looks like a sweet potato, but it's actually more like a fruit. So hopefully that will grow. I got that from a swap in Bega. So this row, got some broccoli still, lots of spinach, all my garlic, silver beet, and then there's another row of potatoes I've planted here. Well, half a row actually, only comes up to about here. And oops, I just stood on something. I had parsnips here, and I got parsnips over here. I planted three lots of parsnips, probably planted more than we need, because this little lot has all died off the tops and they've all come back. Parsnips, like carrots, if you want to save the seed, you do that in the second year. So I'm actually going to leave these and see if I can grow my own parsnip seeds. Excuse the roosters in the tractor. But there's more parsnips here too. I'm digging these ones out. They are a little bit soft, but they're good in things at the moment. And more carrots, rocket, which is going great, and some more peas for days. And these celeries that I planted last year are still going. Some of the bits you just pull off, but they're still going. Just planted some beetroot here, and yesterday I planted some carrots here. So this year I've been doing a little bit of research, YouTube, and a lot of people are talking about biodiversity. So making sure instead of planting a whole bed of the same thing, mixing it up and putting lots of different things in your garden, so which is good for the biodiversity in the ground, but the microorganisms and your microphyzal fungi. So that's why it looks a bit higgledy-piggledy. It looked a bit like that last year, but even it's going to be more so this year, because my potatoes are going to, be in a bed with lots of other things as well. So that's how the garden looks right now. I might have missed a few different things. So how do we take this from our winter garden to planting our spring things? Well, for us, and it depends on where you live and where your garden is and what your seasons are like, but we are going to get frost for at least another 2 weeks, maybe 3. I'm going on what happened last year, so this year might be a little bit different. So we can't plant our spring things yet because the the chance of frost will just, it will just decimate tomatoes, and obviously cucumbers a little bit later as well, but even zucchinis and pumpkins and corn. So that's all growing as seeds at the moment in readiness to pop in the ground. So anywhere in the garden that I don't have something planted, it's heavily mulched. And I work on a, try and do a no-dig. And if you haven't heard much about no-dig, there's lots and lots of stuff out there. I first started watching Charles Dowding, a UK gardener, and he's fantastic. I learnt heaps from Charles. But basically it's not digging up your beds in between each season, and you know, because we don't want to wreck the network that's already in the ground, because it's what feeds your plants. So each season you add some compost to your beds, and you don't even dig your plants out that you're removing, which I'll show you. So this broccoli that's gone to seed, this is time to go to the chickens. So I'm not going to pull this broccoli out of the ground, I'm just going to chop it off. So I come right down to the base and I'll chop it off there. That goes to the chickens, nothing gets wasted at Stony Creek. Oh look, a lovely weed. I am going to pull that out. And so under there we leave the little stem in there, and all the little networks in there that was feeding that plant, that stays in there and it remains, and then we fill it up with compost. So we'll take all these stems out at ground level, and all these on here, and they'll all be for the chickens. And then we get compost. It's taken us about a year to make enough compost for our garden, and then we just put a little layer. Only need a couple of centimetres, or basically whatever you've got. Our compost is got some sticks in it still. I don't mind that. Any of the big sticks go into the path, and I'll show you those. So we'll fill that up with compost, and because I'm not, oh that was a nice worm, and as I don't have anything yet to plant in here because it's not warm enough, I'll just cover it with mulch. So all the microbes that were in there feeding the plants are now going to continue to grow, so when the new plants go in there, it'll be lovely and healthy, and some new compost is feeding it. We don't use any artificial fertilisers on our garden. Compost is the main way that we feed our garden. And we're lucky enough to have chook poo and cow poo that goes into our compost and feeds it, and all the kitchen scraps. And anything else, Robert's a good fisherman, so when he goes fishing it gets fish heads and all sorts of bits. So now I'll just cover that with mulch, so to keep that moist, and let the worms do their bit. So that's how we get a bed ready. So for things that have been in the garden, it's time to go, like these Brussels sprouts. Same thing will happen here. Come over to here, get my chopper ready. They come off. Oop, not quite. They go to the chickens. They have a bowl. Although yesterday I did pick some of these. Some of them probably still could be used, but we'll feed them to the chickens because I actually have a massive bag in my fridge. Lettuces that some of these have just self-sown because they went into our compost, and that's where they remained. And then when we put the compost on the ground, they grew. So chickens are going to have a bowl today. So that's there. I'm going to do the same with that. And anything, we've got radishes here that are going to seed, I'll do the same with those. And eventually these broccolis, once they're done, everything gets the same treatment, so that we're ready when it's time to plant out our spring plants, that the ground is lovely and healthy and ready to take. You can see Robert in the tractor at the background. He's moving mulch into the new little garden bed. So for those that I haven't told before or haven't new to the channel, in our paths are wood chips. So when we made this garden bed, we put wood chips down in our paths. And if you dig down into our wood chips, I've filled up these paths a couple of times, but it is a lovely environment under there. You can't really see too much, but it's starting to decompose now, way under here. So when it starts to decompose, all that white stuff you can see is just beautiful, beautiful microphyzal fungi that's working on decomposing. So that actually feeds, the paths are there for us to walk on so that we can walk between the beds, but it also feeds the beds as well, which is why I did it that way. Sometimes the beds get overturned, and at the moment our lovely ducks seem to like to come in here. They don't dig things up like chickens, but they have been nibbling on this broccoli. I really, at the moment, have just been letting them do it. Haven't eaten the broccoli heads, but they've been eating the leaves. So a lot of this mulch, we're lucky enough to have it because it was a bale of silage that didn't work out, that the animals didn't like, so it's down the back, and really that's been used in the garden, so nothing goes astray or missed. This little potato I covered up last night because I knew it was going to be frosty, and it's just sneaking its way out again. So we're going to have another frost tomorrow morning, so it needs to be covered because the frost will just burn its leaves. So this is my seedling setup this year. Last year I did do it in here, but Robert's just set me up this nice little trolley and it's been excellent. So I started my seedlings probably at least 2 or 3 weeks ago. And what have we got? I'll show you. So we've got the corn, which is go out in the bed that I showed you last week, the cover crop. So it was a bit hit and miss the first one. There's quite a few that didn't germinate, so I've just done another lot here, and I'll hopefully putting those out in about three weeks. Under here, what else have we got? So we've got heaps of tomatoes. Every year I try and plant a couple of new tomatoes that I've never planted before. But my standard tomatoes are cherry. I always plant a cherry, or a couple of cherries. Last year I had yellow pear cherries and they were great, so I'm doing those again. We had a self-sown yellow cherry that I love, so I saved the seeds of that. Tigerella I always plant, and Black Russian. And this year I've planted another one, which I'm not sure where it is. It hasn't come up yet. Oh, here we go. Haven't come up yet, but it's Brandywine Pink. So they haven't come up yet, so we'll wait and see how that goes. But lots of flower seeds. I've got zinnias. These are all marigolds that will go out. These are all my peppers, all my capsicum plants. I've got red peppers, normal chilies, jalapenos. My favourite chili or pepper that I grew last year was a Marconi. So it's a sweet red pepper, but it's long and it's smaller. So it's good for just the two of us when we want a pepper but don't want to break into a big one. Got some sunflowers poking their little heads up. Lots more tomatoes. So what I do when I plant tomatoes, I plant them in a little container like this, and once they come up like this, then I put them into a bigger container. Then once they've grown to a size, then I up-pot them again into a size like this, because they don't like getting their roots squashed. These ones need a water. So all these ones have been up-potted. And my new tomatoes, which are over here, thanks to Steve, are the big Malakas. So I haven't had them before. They're seeds that Steve and Annie have given us. So I've got 3 or 4 of those. So hopefully they'll be great as well. and any of you that watch Vasily's Gardening will know what a big malacca is. I've got pumpkins growing, or zinnias. I've got some zucchini in there. I've got even a watermelon, and yeah, yellow zucchini, sugar pumpkin, Kent pumpkin, and a couple of watermelons. And under here, more peppers, more tomatoes, or some dwarf green beans, and they are nearly ready to put out, and I'm going to have to put something so that the frost don't get them, because the frost will get them. And this tomato is actually called a Siberian, so that'll be one of the first ones I put out. I'll just wait till it gets a little bit bigger. But on a sunny day, this sunroom can get really, really warm. The other day it was 39 degrees in here, so we have to shut the blinds. But I also am putting them out daily, most of them, to start hardening the seeds off. So that's a bit of an effort, putting them out and bringing them in again. But they all look good, and I just love the start of spring and seedling time. The anticipation of what will grow and what will grow well is so fun, so fun. These sunflowers, they've only come up in the last day, so hopefully they'll be great too. So that's my seedling setup. As I said, I'm not a professional gardener. I'm learning, I'm doing the things that are working for us. But if you've got any questions or anything else you'd like to see, please pop it in the comments, and I'm happy to talk about it, or why I do what I do. And that might be not what everybody does, but that's just what's working for us. But there may be better ways to do things too, which is fine. So I'll show you this little project, another little gardening project I've been doing. And there's a couple of videos on that of what we're going to do with some totes we had lying around. Here is my latest garden project. Around the farm we had all these half totes that the previous owners used for water and feed, and we've been using for water. And I saw online the other day that some people had used them for raised garden beds. I thought, what a jolly good idea. Let's make use of what we've got. So we've lined them up. Robert's popped some holes in them, and now I'm just filling them with some old wood. So doing a bit of hugelkultur, so filling up the base of with some old wood, and then we've got some old leaves, and we'll get some mulch, and then put some chicken poo, cow poo, and eventually we'll put some of the topsoil we've got on there. We start doing them, and my plan for these beds will be for my sweet potatoes. I grew great sweet potatoes this year, but sweet potatoes are one of those things that they're in the ground for a long time. You plant them here in Australia about November, and I dug them up in May. So it's a long time to be in the beds when I could be using the beds for something else. And they do grow, and they're quite prolific, so they can quite nicely just grow over the top of the bed there, and they're at the back. So I thought this is a really good idea. So this is my project today. I'm just going to slowly over the next month fill them up so that they're ready to plant in a couple of months. Fill them up with some good stuff, and I might get some sand as well, because sweet potatoes like to be in quite good drainage. They don't like things that are heavy. We'll show you how it comes along. I'll update you on our little tote beds. So it's been nearly just over 3 weeks since we started filling them up. We've had a couple of hot days, but things are going well. Got one more to fill up, which is this one here. But the other ones I've started, and see these little lettuce seedlings, these ones here were like that about 2 weeks ago. So they're enjoying the totes. And these lettuce seedlings are from seeds I save from lettuces that I let go to seed in summertime. And then there's some red lettuce here that they're not growing as fast, and they're a little bit harder to seed, but They're growing well. I haven't got anything under here yet, so I've just mulched that. So they're growing beautifully. And I've planted these ones as well, so there's some more lettuce and red lettuce there as well. Just covering that with mulch. Probably should have done the mulch first. So I'll do that in the last couple of beds. I didn't get to put any sand in these ones because we hadn't collected it yet, but we went down to the river the other day and got a couple of bags of sand. So I popped them in. This garden, I planted these little seedlings. When did I do these? Probably only 3 days ago. And have planted rocket in the middle here as well. And amazingly, the rocket's already coming up. No, it's got to be longer than 3 days ago. Probably a week ago, I'm trying to think. So rocket's great. It's a fast grower. I love rocket in salads. So we're going to have lettuce for days, and that's the thing about lettuce is you've got to succession plant it, because in summer, which is when we like our lettuce, it doesn't like the heat, so it tends to bolt, so you need to keep planting it. And over those really hot days, I had to put a sunshade on them because it was just too hot, and they just do not like the sun. So this one's nearly ready to plant, just giving it a good water. We'll mulch it, I've put some sand in. And then I'll keep filling these ones up. So these are the big buckets of bags of sand we grabbed from the river the other day. So the plan is to just fill these with lettuce. We might do some other quick growing things like some radishes. Might even put some beetroots in until it's ready to plant the sweet potatoes, which will be a good probably 2 months. What are we? End of September, end of October. Maybe 6 weeks. We'll see. We had a 0 degree morning this morning, so we're still getting frosts here. Yeah, so they're going well. If anybody's got any unused little beds or things, it's worth planting, and it's worth putting in some lettuce, because there is nothing like harvesting fresh lettuce for your salads. So we'll end this video here. Thanks for watching the garden update, and happy planting. Until next time, we'll see you on the farm.